Somewhere in the Karen Reed case, an evil genius lurks. A true criminal mastermind, because the theories from both sides, defense and prosecution, depends on the existence of an evil genius. Let's start with the prosecution. Assistant DA Lally is arguing that Karen Reed knew John O'Keefe was lying on the lawn in the front yard of the Alberts when she left the house at 5 a.m. This is why, as the theory goes, she was so hysterical inside O'Keefe's home that morning. When she called Kerry Roberts, she said to have worried that O'Keefe was hit by a plow. This is portrayed as evidence that Reed knew she had hit John and left him for dead. So when Roberts and Jen McCabe drove with Reed to the Alberts to look for O'Keefe, and Reed first spotted him in the snow on the front lawn, this is cited as evidence that she knew. We're told she saw him before he was even visible to the others, before maybe he was even visible. So this version of Karen Reed is a kind of evil genius. She knows what she did and is in cover-up mode. I expect the prosecution will argue that Reed smacked John's vehicle with her SUV at 5 a.m. on purpose because she knew her taillight was broken and needed to create an alternative explanation. Heck, in the wee hours of that snowy morning, maybe Miss Lex Luthor even conceived the whole conspiracy theory, the one her team is now pushing in the media and with the judge. Clever girl. But there's one problem. If Reed was in cover-up mode when she arrived at McCabe's house to go searching for her boyfriend, and she was already trying to point a finger at a plow or Brian Albert or some unknown hit-and-run driver, why would she worry out loud at the scene that she had hit O'Keefe? Unless Karen Reed is truly a next-level genius, the prosecution's theory doesn't make any sense. This doesn't mean Reed didn't break her taillight on O'Keefe's head. It just means that for some reason, the prosecution is selling a lie, because a senseless theory is a lie. Put yourself in Karen's high-heeled boots. Let's play out the prosecution's theory. Reed knows she hit O'Keefe. She's going through the motions of looking for him downtown and calling up McCabe and Roberts. As the three of them are driving towards the Albert house, she knows John's dead on the lawn. Her pulse rate quickens. Her heart pounds. Will she be able to handle a 20-year bit in prison? Will she look good in orange? So she's terrified of being caught. Adrenaline fuels her thoughts. Think quick, Karen. Think quick. How can you get out of this? It's snowing. They drive closer to the Alberts' home. Has someone already found him? Are the cops there? God, is this her last moment of freedom? Her heart races so fast it feels like an animal trying to escape a cage. They round the turn onto Fairview. No flashing lights. Good. No one's found him. Look surprised, she tells herself. Look surprised. Look shocked. For God's sake, don't let anyone see. You already know he's there. Let the others see him first. Then when they do, scream, "Oh my God," and run out. But in her excitement, she slips up. "There he is," she shouts. Hey, it's her first murder, right? So she got a little overexuberant. It happens. But one thing for sure is this. Everything going on in her mind would be about trying to direct the others away from thinking she might have hit him. Her mind would be looking for anything to seize on in that direction. When she sees his beat-up face, she'd say, "Oh my God, someone beat him up." This is what an evil genius would do, right? In fact, not only an evil genius, but pretty much anyone with an IQ higher than Joe Biden's age. Remember those commercials? It's so obvious a caveman can do it. It's like that. Remember those movies where the butler must have done it? Well, did the butler ever announce to detectives, "Hey guys, I must have done it"? So the one thing she'd never do, never, is bring up the idea that she might have hit him. Unless Karen Reed's genius is so advanced that she thought of this too and figured she'd go in reverse psychology. So the butler in those old movies says to himself, if I say maybe I killed him, later on my defense team can use that. Brilliant. They can point out that I'd never say that if I was trying to get away with murder. I'm not that stupid. So is that Lally's theory, that Karen Reed is such a criminal mastermind that she's 3 steps ahead of everyone? Sitting in the car, still drunk, or as we say in Massachusetts, cocked. She already imagined what her defense team would argue. So she jumped out of the car and said, "Was it me? Did I do it? Oh my God, I hit him. Well, maybe I'm naive, but I myself don't think Reed is a next level criminal mastermind who spends her weekends plotting heists in Gotham or creating plots to stump Sherlock Holmes. She's regular person smart. If she wanted to steer police and rescuers away from thinking she hit O'Keefe, the very last thing she would talk about would be, well, hitting O'Keefe with her SUV. But I'm just a guy who made great frozen mudslides. I'm not a genius, so what do I know? To me, if at the crime scene she was in any way referring to the possibility of her hitting O'Keefe, that could only mean one of two things. Either she didn't hit him, or she had no idea she hit him. If Lally is arguing anything else, frankly, he just can't be trusted. Before we talk about the evil genius inside the Albert house, some announcements. First, I've been asked why the last video didn't have the court TV clip as promised. The reason is because the audio came out garbled, so after recording it, I decided to send it to hell. I don't have time to record another one, but I can sum up my feelings on that court TV episode here. It sucked. They had 3 defense lawyers, no prosecutors, no former prosecutors. There wasn't one single word of interesting legal analysis. In fact, there really wasn't any legal analysis. One of the lawyers said the state seems to be only interested in removing or excluding evidence. Okay, sure, we all want to see the evidence. But what I would expect legal experts to tell me is what kind of evidence is allowed and what isn't. What's part of discovery and what isn't. If there's a murder on your street, the police can't just grab the cell phones of everyone in their houses. Obviously, in this case, there's a seemingly plausible defense theory that the victim went inside the house. What I'd like to see in an expert legal discussion is what are the rules on that? What is the precedent? Are there other cases that might shed light? In my old bartending days, I would have heard better analysis from non-lawyers sitting around the bar. Not their kind of bar, my kind. Couple of big announcements. Through this channel, I've made some great friends. One is Dave Jenkins. We talk on the phone now every week. I'm hoping to bring a crew out there in the fall to film an investigation of the Evansdale murders. Another guy that's become a really good friend is Dave McGrath, the author of the book Monster. He works for the Sheriff's Department in Massachusetts, but for years, he's been researching predatory crimes in the New England area. Dave's one of those guys that really gets into the weeds on these things. He's interviewed hundreds of people, from victims and families to law enforcement. He's gone into places that detectives can't get into and managed to get people talking. He has a way of earning people's trust. I think that's his superpower. He doesn't like to mention it, but he saw tough combat in Afghanistan. And my guess is that's why the trust thing runs so deep with him. In war, you have to count on the guys with you. You guys on the channel are going to trust him too. And you're going to get a lot of opportunity to listen to him because me and Dave will soon be launching a new show, the Yellow Tape Podcast. It'll be featured on the Law Enforcement Network, which is on Spotify. We have a lot of special guests scheduled. We'll be talking about material related to Dave's work in the book Monster, but also related to his second book, which has just gone to the publisher and will hopefully be coming out at the end of this summer. Don't worry, we'll also be posting these shows here at Yellow Cottage Tales. I'm also excited to show you a really quick trailer of my upcoming series, if you don't mind. So I'll start. Don't mind. So I'll start posting episodes in a couple of weeks from this, and I'm hoping to use this series as the basis for launching a real documentary series. Any of you that want to help us with any of this stuff, we'd welcome it because I think we can make a difference. I think citizens make a difference. This isn't like leaving fires to the fire department. The kind of predators Dave has studied present a real Achilles heel for law enforcement. Most police departments have a very poor understanding of these kind of guys because these guys ain't like normal criminals. And once a case goes cold, the cops, whose resources and time are stretched, they just can't really stay on the trail. So if you want to help us, we'll find a way. Maybe you like research. Maybe you can take photos or video for the episodes. Maybe you're an expert at social media. Maybe you have legal expertise or law enforcement experience. Or maybe you're like me and you're pretty much only good at making drinks. These cases are hard to read about, but I think this cause is important. If you want to help, we'll figure out the best way. If nothing else, please click subscribe, notify, and leave your door unlocked so we can send a team in and make this channel your homepage. So let's get back to evil geniuses, this time from the other side, because if the defense theory is right, it depends also on there being an evil genius, this one inside the house. John O'Keefe's phone stopped moving at 12:32. Jen McCabe called him at 12:29. Texted him at 12:31, 12:40, and 12:45. Karen Reed got home at 12:41. So she left the Alberts house probably between 12:32 and 12:35. Sidebar. For the moment, pay no attention to the fact that it's curious that O'Keefe stopped moving at 12:32, right around the time Reed was leaving the scene. Okay, so what's the defense theory? Well, there seems to be a few things they propose, but all of them involve O'Keefe going into the house and being attacked. Remember, the phone stops moving at 12:32. So either O'Keefe had collapsed in the snow by then, or he dropped his phone there before going into the house, or someone had tossed his phone there. He was found lying on top of his phone. I think we can forget the idea that he dropped his phone, went inside the house, got beat up to the edge of death, and then walked out looking for his phone and then collapsed on it. That's kind of far-fetched. That leaves us with two scenarios where he got beat up inside the house and somehow his phone ended up underneath him in the snow. Either he was attacked, then staggered out and collapsed on the lawn at 12:32, dropping his phone. Or he was attacked, the killers kept him in the house, dead or unconscious, but they had the presence of mind to toss the phone out into the yard so it would hopefully seem like he was never inside the house. Let's look at the first scenario and see if it can work with the known time data. So O'Keefe goes into the house. Reed is waiting outside to see if he's going to stay. This is consistent with what a witness, Ryan Nagel, saw when he drove by. He saw Karen sitting in the SUV alone. Inside the house, O'Keefe gets attacked. In addition to being mauled by the dog, someone whacks him with an object on the back of the head, causing skull fractures. So O'Keefe staggers out into the yard. Seeing Karen still waiting in the SUV, he struggles across the snowy lawn, desperately trying to reach her. Gets within 12 feet, but collapses. And she never sees him. Within a few minutes, unaware, she drives off. Sidebar. It will really help Karen if she sent a final text to John at some time after 12:32 saying something like, okay, I'm leaving. So let's match this to the other evidence. Jen McCabe called O'Keefe at 12:29, 3 minutes before his phone last moved. The call connected for only 8 seconds. She texted at 12:31, 12:40, and 12:45. If O'Keefe was attacked in the house, was it necessary that McCabe knew about it when she made that call? I'm going to go with yes for this reason. Both she and her husband testified to watching for O'Keefe from the open door. In fact, Mr. McCabe seems to have been in the door the whole time. So the idea of O'Keefe coming into the house, getting mauled by a dog and attacked by someone, and then staggering outside without being seen by the McCabes seems a little absurd. But it's possible that at the time of the call, she didn't know. I think certainly by the time of her text, she knew. So let's play it out from different time possibilities. Could O'Keefe been assaulted sometime before 12:29? And then maybe McCabe called him and it connected for 8 seconds. So let's say he came in, got beat up, and then staggered out before 12:29. Unaware at that moment of the beating, unaware he'd been inside the house. McCabe calls him. He briefly accepts the call, but near collapse, he disconnects. Not actually sure if this makes sense. If he managed to connect, I think he'd stay on the line. But like I said, if McCabe didn't know about the attack when she called him, I think she certainly knew about it by 12:40 when she texted him to park behind her. It's hard to conceive of a scenario where if there was an attack inside, she didn't know by then, which indicates if the defense theory is true, that O'Keefe went inside the house, that her texts were just an attempt to create a false alibi, one where John didn't come inside, That's the defense theory. The theory is that minutes after O'Keefe was attacked, McCabe became part of an elaborate plot to make it seem like O'Keefe never came in the house. There's only one way to make sense of that theory: the presence of an evil genius. Say John is beat up, staggers out, and McCabe calls him at 12:29. They're watching him from the house. At 12:32, he collapses. Well, instead of calling 911, they start creating their false alibi. Evil genius. Or maybe McCabe hears an altercation somewhere in the house, so she calls John at 12:29. He briefly connects, but then staggers out. So, like I said, at the time of the call, maybe she didn't know what happened. But by the time of her next text, when she says at 12:31, she says hi. And certainly by the time of her 12:40, pull behind me text, she's learned what's happened. And now she's in cover-up mode. So maybe she is Mrs. Lex Luthor. Or maybe she's being directed by a Lex Luthor, just doing what she's told. Well, let's say she's merely following orders. She's never been part of a murder cover-up before, right? She's probably never been part of a crime, probably never been in trouble. I doubt she even had a detention in school. However, stunned, wanting to be a team player, she goes along with it. Maybe she even hands over her phone to the evil genius and he makes the text. But if that's the case, when that call comes at 5 a.m. from Karen Reed, would she now be so on board with the scheme that she actually goes with Reed back to the scene of the crime? No way. If Jen McCabe was just a patsy being a team player and submissively letting some evil genius inside the house plot the whole thing out, when she got home and realized the gravity of it all, realized that she was part of a murder cover-up, the murder of her friend, once she got home away from the killers and conspirators, she wouldn't leave the house again. This isn't Bonnie and Clyde. So if you want this bartender's opinion, the fact that McCabe went back to the crime scene with Reed and Kerry Roberts indicates that either McCabe is innocent or it is she that's the evil genius, the puppet master pulling the strings. Unfortunately, that's where we're at in this messed up case. I'm actually starting to wonder if John O'Keefe is sitting in some pub laughing his ass off at the great hoax he pulled off. I personally have an easier time believing in the tooth fairy than the idea that Jen McCabe, a woman in her 40s with no criminal record, morphed into Lex Luthor at 12:29 a.m. after a night of drinking. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was her moment to shine. In her spare time, she was plotting another Ocean's 11 heist, but then this opportunity came along, a chance to prove how clever she is. Are there other scenarios that make sense of her 12:29 call and her subsequent texts? Maybe the guys had just beat O'Keefe unconscious and wanting to locate his phone, they had Jen call it. Then they carried him out and dropped him on the lawn at 12:32, the last time the phone moved. But Karen Reed was still sitting in her SUV a short distance away at that time. So lumbering out with a dead body seems a little risky. So maybe they waited till Reed drove off at 12:35 at the latest. Then they carried him out. But the phone stopped moving at 12:32. Shit, so much for that theory. Unless they were clever enough to toss the phone in the yard at 12:32, not far from Reed's waiting SUV. Brilliant. Then later, when they brought O'Keefe out, they managed to drop him right on top of the phone in the snow. Lucky shot? No. McCabe's texts at 12:40 and 12:45 would have lit up that phone in the snow like a phone in the snow. That really is next level shit. Certified genius. As I said, unless McCabe is that evil genius, I don't see her leaving the house at 5 a.m. to return to the scene. However, maybe the savant inside the house was able to force her to do his bidding. That's what evil geniuses do, after all, right? So the criminal mastermind would have been calling her during those hours at home and giving her marching orders, keeping her calm. After Reed called McCabe at 5 a.m., McCabe would immediately call the mastermind as soon as she hung up, get her instructions. Well, she didn't use her cell phone for that. We've seen the records. Do police have her landline records? I don't know. Or maybe she was clever enough to use her husband's cell phone. Maybe the evil genius gave her a burner phone, because an evil genius would keep a box of those around for occasions, such as murder cover-ups. Boy, I hope John O'Keefe is enjoying that drink, watching everyone twist in the wind. I know I am enjoying a drink, that is, and twisting in the wind.